Judge, what do you make of Roger Stone? You know, the career prosecutor suggested he'd get 7 to 9 years, and now it looks like it's closer to 3.
Well, the 7 to 9 years was absurd. I think anyone who understands the criminal justice system or even the federal guidelines understands that that was a political vendetta and a sentence that was intended to reflect that. You know, the 3 years, the 3 to 4 years is more consistent with the guidelines. He's a guy who has never committed a crime before. And, you know, the crimes that he committed, 3 to 4 years is consistent with punishment, you know, compared to other defendants.
So why did it get so much criticism, though? Because as you mentioned, this is more in line with what the amended sentencing recommendation from the DOJ, yet everyone lost their minds at them amending the sentencing. So why?
Well, look, what happened was that you had 4 prosecutors who were very much inclined to seek whatever they could based upon their hatred of Donald Trump and anyone connected to him. And when the head of the Department of Justice comes out and says, well, this isn't consistent with the guidelines, right, they then want to withdraw from the case. I mean, you work for the Attorney General, and he doesn't work for you. So, you know, it became a political showdown. And in the end, at the end of the day, it was the judge who pretty much confirmed what the Attorney General and the president said herself when she said, look, it's a 3-year sentence. That's the end of it. And so now what I don't understand, though, is I don't understand why the judge went forward with sentencing. Right. The truth is that once there is an issue...
Before deciding about the juror.
Once there's an issue of juror bias that goes to the validity of the conviction itself, you have to decide whether or not this conviction should stand. And if you have a foreperson of the jury who has a bias against the defendant and everything that this defendant stands for and has made that known publicly and then outs herself, what's curious is that she comes out and says, I stand by the prosecutors and what they were doing.
Yeah,
what were you to stand by the prosecutors? Your job is to decide the facts, not the sentence.
Listen to what the judge, Amy Berman Jackson, said. Stone took it upon himself to lie, to impede, to obstruct before the investigation was complete in an endeavor to influence the result. The truth still exists. The truth still matters. So she didn't really care about what the jury said. She had an opinion about this guy right away.
Well, right. And her sentence is consistent with the facts and what she said.
Does it make it harder for the president to pardon?
The jury doesn't decide what the sentence should be. As a judge, I would say, your concern is not the sentence. You tell me whether he did it, and I'll decide what the sentence should be. So when that foreperson comes out and objects to the fact that these prosecutors are taken off the case, who are you to do that? And then the other issue, and I'll answer your question in a second, is the judge has already prejudged this by saying, look, this jury acted with the utmost integrity. Yeah. Judge Amy Berman Jackson, how do you know that? Why would you say that? You haven't had a hearing yet on whether or not. I don't know if she's biased, but she ought to recuse herself. Having said that, she has prejudged the very issue that she must decide, and that is, was this juror, how did this juror get on the case? How did this juror lie and not answer the questionnaire?
Doesn't that come up during when they're interviewing?
Absolutely. During the voir dire, can you be fair and impartial? Right. Is there anything in your background that lends anyone to believe that you couldn't be? There's a questionnaire that's handed out to all the potential jurors, and any of that stuff would have come out. The juror was not completely open. And so for the judge to come out and say the jury acted with integrity under difficult circumstances, hogwash. This wasn't difficult.
The Attorney General said, I recommend 3.5 years. Yeah. And he gets 3.5 years. Does it make it harder for the president to pardon Roger Stone if his Attorney General recommendations were adhered to by the judge?
No, because that is the sentence for this crime. That is the pretty much recognized sentence within the standard of the federal guidelines. That is consistent. If and when the president, and then he says, I'll let it all play out, if he decides he wants to pardon or commute the sentence, that's a totally different issue. One has nothing to do with the other.
All right.
Well, and staying on, Russia, so the New York Times recently came out with this article. Here's the headline. It says, House is warned that Russia is meddling to re-elect Trump once again.
Time to write a new book, Judge.
Someone wake Robert Mueller.
I mean, Judge, are we going to see this once again if President Trump wins in 2020? Is somehow, Russia was behind this? It actually isn't a legitimate election?
Yes. And don't you think it's interesting that they went right to House Intel? Gee, who's on House Intel? Go ahead, answer the question. Adam Schiff.
But his DNI is President McGuire is the president's DNI.
Oh, so what? Weren't they wrong with weapons of mass destruction? Weren't they wrong when it came to what are all the other issues that they were wrong on? The intelligence community that even Chuck Schumer said they'll get you 6 ways to Sunday if they want. And isn't it interesting now that the Mueller investigation's over, Russia's over, this president has imposed sanctions on Russia unlike any other president in the history of this country. Now we're why? Because Mueller's over, everything's over, impeachment's over. We got to get him. We need to get the president for something. Russia, are you kidding? If Bernie Sanders is the candidate, Russia's coming in the USSR for Comrade Bernie. I mean, who goes to Russia for a honeymoon?
Well, I've not gotten married, but I would not.
It's on the winter, just not Siberia.
You've been to Siberia?
No, I'm saying that wouldn't be good for your honeymoon.
Judge, who is...
It might be.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
you can snuggle.
You, Steve.
No, back to you. Who's on your show this weekend?
Okay, on my show we've got Daryl Issa, Sarah Sanders, Charlie Kirk. I'm going out. I'm doing Street Justice to find out what people think about Mini Mike, and my open will be on that, and it ought to be a doozy.
You'll have caucus results too, probably.
And I'll have well, they say now they may be late. They may not have them by Saturday.
You're on late.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Hey, I am on late. Saturday night, 9 o'clock. Would you like to be on my show tomorrow?
I would love to, but I have had previous commitment.
What? Your book?
No, nothing. But I'm not able to.
It doesn't
You
sound
can't
like
ask me out on the show.
Let me tell you, you were on the show last weekend. You rated great. Love having you on. Love having you on. So smart, so bright. Really, you want to be on, Steve? You're in New Jersey.
But when I was on, I catered.
Oh, that's right. That's right. But didn't you cater my recipe?
I did indeed. Wait until the next cookbook.
That's right.
Judge, thank you very much. We'll be watching.
Thanks, Judge. Always a pleasure.
The president gave you a shout out last night.
Yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.